Well, hello there, gang. Welcome to the 30. I am your host, Patrick. Uh, last week we had a fantastic show where we talked about mastering and how do you master productivity, right? We went all the way to England. We spoke with DK Jonah. What a great episode that was. That was part one. We're going to be coming back with part two probably in another month or so. Today, we're going to switch up. We're going to do something a little bit different here. We're going to talk about change maker, a change maker. And if you look at it, a change maker is an individual who actively engages in creating positive and impactful transformations in society, whether it's local at a local level, at a national level, or at a global level. And that's what we're going to be covering today, a change maker. And I have a special guest. She is dynamic. She is super intelligent, knows what she's doing. And I am happy to have her on the 30. So this is the 30, folks, episode 157. Glad to have you with me. Thanks for being here. Remember to like and share the broadcast. If you are watching on LinkedIn, make sure that you repost it. If you're watching us on YouTube, do me a huge favor. Subscribe to our channel and like this broadcast. We want to make sure that you are part of this 3 years strong and going, episode 157. The goal of the 30 is very simple. We are here to provide our viewers and listeners with relevant information to help you to enhance your personal, professional, and spiritual lives. So that's what we do. We're here each week and hope that you can join us. Thank you for being part of our family. So let's get it started. Let me invite to the 30 studios. This is Takiyah Butler. Takiyah, how are you?
Hi, I'm pretty well. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for being on the 30. Thank you for joining us.
I'm grateful.
Do me a huge favor. If you can tell our viewers, who is Takiyah and what does Takiyah do?
Yeah, so Takiyah is a lot of things, especially this week. But overall, I am the owner of Excelsior Performance Group. It is a performance improvement consultancy. So we really focus on helping change makers navigate the storm. And so the kind of key idea is when you're trying to make the world a better place, you're probably not going to do it right the first time or the second or the third time. So how do you build systems and processes and ways of looking at the world that kind of help you continue and persist towards your goals? The fundamental belief is that if we all sort of show up and do our part, that we really could create the things that we want, that we might think are impossible. So I show up sometimes doing facilitation, strategic planning, some coaching, and that shows up in a lot of different communities. Right now I'm doing it in my hometown, but also with a couple of clients all around the country. So a very interesting way of helping the helpers stay alive so that they can multiply.
Awesome, great. So you do quite a bit, and you're also the owner and founder of your own company. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I am in my second year, my full-time second year. So this is actually my second go, right? So speaking of kind of failing forward and learning lessons, really, I think at some point I realized this type of work requires you to be beside an organization and not always necessarily within. And it was sort of built out of realizing what my personal strength was, and really wanting to be able to stay true to that and sort of build around that. And so, what I really love is holding space for lots of different people to come together to devise a solution to a problem. So, whether that's within an organization, a division, or a department, or if that's a whole community via, the city or state trying to plan or figure something out, I really enjoy creating the space for people to show up in and do the work. And I believe that really does need, a method or roadmap, a process. So my organization houses a bunch of different products that show up in service to that. So that may look like, a continuous improvement process or strategic planning process, or it might look like, trainings and facilitations or public speaking. And the ones that really hit close to me are the mentorship moments that may or may not necessarily be a business line, but really a greater service, that there are kind of change makers out here who are not aligned to an organization that I might align with, who maybe can't afford whole coaching, but really just need somebody cheering them on and kind of showing up in a almost grandmotherly way. So there's the for-profit product building, and then there's that, the ultimate good I want to do in the world.
Awesome. And Takiyah and I met at a client's site, and we hit it off right away. And I said, "Wow, this young lady, she's sharp."
I heard the same thing about you. I came on my the top of my game. I slept well the night before. No, I had heard
Uh,
you built, great systems. So, it's a good thing to learn from the folks who've gone before you.
exactly, exactly. So the topic tonight is a change maker. So when we talk about that, what does that mean to Takiyah, and what is Takiyah? How do you go about making changes?
Yeah, wow, that's a loaded question. So, and I'm gonna start. Actually, let me start with my bottom line. My bottom line is that change happens from within, and that at minimum change is a two-step process. And so I think there's consciousness of what is and what could be, and then making actual radical choices to do something as opposed to what you may have done before. And I think there's a lot of different ways that you go about building your ability to make different decisions. But I do think it's a two-part process of awareness and then some decisions and choice making. um, when I think about trying to do that work with folks, I have a mentor, who made a joke that's like one of those inside jokes, of change management is an oxymoron. And so you really can't really change things or people outside of yourself, but you can embody certain principles. You can embody certain concepts. And so for me, there's like the work that you do in the that you get paid for, that you have clients for. And then there's also the brand that you represent in the community and how you show up in your neighborhood with those same talents that you leverage. So change for me is also showing up, reading my book while I walk down the street, or eating and ordering healthy things, or, biking and folks seeing you in the community. I think you can show up, as a change maker in not only what you do in the world, but also in who you are.
Very well
So
said. Good.
now I just want to, I guess, add, because I think change maker I think language is important. And a lot of spaces where I used to say systems change, I was encouraged to say systems transformation. And so I think there's a relationship between the word change and the word transformation. So I just want to put that on the table as we talk.
Now that's good. That's good because we have to transform, right? If we that's, but I guess diamond here there is
Right.
all from the same part, because if we're going to move from one space to a next, has to be some form of transformation that's taking place. So
Absolutely.
it's good. Who do you work with now? Who do you hope to work with in the future? As we're talking about change and transformation.
Yeah. Man, I've been really blessed to work with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds and cultures and topics and spaces and levels of title and awareness. At current, I'm working with a lot of philanthropists, so that's always a space I tend to find myself in. So the philanthropic funder, grant maker space. I also work with a lot of organizations, and so recently I've worked with a community land trust, so working in restructuring some of their housing portfolios. I've worked with mental health organizations to help build out their strategy for how they were going to market themselves to the community and sort of build a logic model. I've worked with the city of Rochester in building out their Office of Financial Empowerment, so some economic development work. The topics vary, but for me, the process behind it remains the same. And the underlying goal of procedural justice, where people have all their voice and choice, that remains the same. So any type of organization, and then also doing this individual and group coaching. Right now, I've been focused actually on AmeriCorps members, folks who generally wouldn't get access to the type of services you provide or that I provide, but they've started to create these channels for them. And I'm trying to show up as a former member myself with a certain amount of empathy and understanding to kind of create space for folks to think about what happens after that service term. So a lot of different types of clients. So I don't know that there are new folks that I'm missing, but I know I want to be able to speak more often to even more people in a way that they can understand. I think that matters more to me, is perfecting the accuracy of my messaging to all the same audiences.
Good, good, good. And where did you learn all this work? Because I think it's fascinating, and it takes a special person to really do this type of work. So where did you learn it? And then secondly, has it always been a passion of yours as you were growing up?
So I think it's a smorgasbord of a bunch of different experiences and influences and people. And I think depending on the day of the week or the circumstance I'm in, it changes how I answer that question. I have core memories of advice I've gotten around, making sure you have a tool-based degree, that if you want to do change work, if you want to, make the world a better place, that you need to have tools that will be sustainable and constantly necessary. So that was an approach. My grandmother, whose picture is behind me, was very much a matriarch of our family. And so this idea of holding space is very cultural for me. It's not necessarily professional. Um, Throughout the work, though, especially in the early years, I would always find myself in management positions, and I would always be managing people who were older than me. And so I literally went to a Goodwill and bought some like organizational behavior books, and they were really interesting to me. But the main impetus for me looking them up or looking into the work was, how do I show up in this situation? Because I don't necessarily have the tools. And there are folks who have higher expectations, and those expectations may or may not be fair, but I want to rise to the occasion. So that's how I got into the topic. But I think through a lot of different experiences, I realized that being able to persist in the work is actually my talent, more so than even the products that I deliver.
That's fantastic. And the second part of it, have this always been? I know your grandmother had a great influence over you.
Mhm.
Has this always been something that you wanted to do, that you saw yourself doing uh, growing up, or was it a shift somewhere along the line?
Man, I thought I was gonna be a singer. Right. So I thought I was gonna. Well, I knew I wanted to be an artist, and like your doctor says, "What do you want to be?" I'm like, "I want to be an artist." He's like, "What kind?" I'm like, "I don't know yet." So I think I'm still an artist. But yeah, I wanted to be a singer. I thought I would have a Grammy by 15. I thought I would be in like a totally different space of my life. So it's kind of happened over time because I was trying to find a way to make the world a better place. And
Mm,
that's genuinely always been something that I cared about. So that has been something I cared about. And I really love the moment when something clicks for somebody. That's like a heartwarming moment for me. So I guess I found my way to positions that have allowed me to do that. It's been refined over the years based on, I think, where I've been able to find peace and where I've seen what I can do repeatedly or what I can do reliably. That's really helped find my way. But the ultimate is that I really want to make the world. I think we could make the world a better place more quickly than we think. But I do think it requires a lot of personal work.
sure, sure. Now, your bio says that your belief is that everyone should have a seat at the table.
Indeed, indeed.
Let's talk about that. What does that mean?
Yeah. So for me, the underlying idea is procedural justice. So, and procedural justice meaning, voice and choice. Do I have a say in the decisions that we make? Am I able to contribute to the information that we base our decisions on? And it's really important when you think about procedural justice to try to be as inclusive of the folks who are impacted by the decisions. And so when I say everyone deserves a seat at the table, I mean, you deserve to have a say in the things that affect your well being. And there are lots of different domains of well-being, but within whatever domain you are focused on, you deserve a right to sit at that table. It's also an acronym for me. And so a certain approach that I commit to and try to show up with as a facilitator in spaces. So SEAT is SEAT. So folks, everyone deserves space to speak. So really intentionally designing the space in a way that encourages dialogue. So you'll see more questions maybe than you'll see, kind of written, now do this, now do that. Everyone should be empowered to engage. Am I putting people in positions where they can display their strengths, where they can speak up in a way that's comfortable for them? Everyone should be able to act. I should be helping them refine those skills and develop them. And at the end, they should be transformed into a team, because it's no one has all the answers. And so through this process, we really want to embrace the fact that everyone is seeing the same elephant from totally different perspectives. If I commit to that, right, having done all the nerdy research in my 20s, if I commit to that process, then I know that I can get teams to a position where they can at least feel like they are undertaking something that they can actively and realistically do, because it's rooted in reality and not just in expectations.
Great, great, great. Now let's talk about moving forward. What is some of the work that you are looking to do? I know that you are working in kind of a different capacity now. Not sure if you want to talk about that, but but let's talk about some of the work that you hope to do going forward.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'll speak to it from the perspective of an entrepreneurial journey, right? So I'll give the 2 years in experience, which I know is useful for somebody. So I just decided to go quasi in-house, and like that, figuring out that balance is important, but I think it's still a space to continue to do the same thing. Um, my 3-year strategic goal had really three components to it. So that's what I'm working on. One was to build my templates. So really building a lot of the tools, making them easier for me to kind of systematize and produce information. And I'm really thinking in that, what if I were the AI, what would I build? And then also working on getting my certifications, the knowledge, the resources. I realize that in this work, you really do sometimes need some extra letters. So building that capacity to show up and develop and deliver a good product. And then lastly, to be able to bring in a certain amount of profit, which really isn't so much about the profit as it is about the being able to build an organization that can do this work at a higher scale. And so what that means for me is trying to build more products that can help individuals versus organizations, trying to build more shared spaces for organizations to come together. So one of my projects that I'm beginning to sort of pitch and pull together is actually named after my grandmother. And the intention is to have folks learn from each other's wins and failures, right? How do we learn as a group and sort of build that relationship and that social capital amongst each other? And then lastly, continuing to do a lot of public speaking and making a point around social capital, especially in the Black community, and what that means and looks like for us and what it requires of us as individuals, and then trying to build resources that support people in that. So all of those are goals, are kind of like products to me to get to that ultimate goal of performance improvement. But right now in this phase, I think I'm getting to the operationalizing of a business, and trying to make sure I can articulate what I'm doing and what the value add is.
Good. So let's take it and personalize it a little bit so
Mhm.
that people know deep down who Takiyah is. So we talk about what Takiyah does.
Mhm.
Let's talk about who she is. You mentioned your grandmother a lot. What type of influence did she have on you and over you and your family members?
That's funny. So I'll start by saying that every single one of her grandkids would say the same thing I'm saying and mean it just as individualized as I mean it, right? So she had this ability to make everyone feel special and seen. And so I think that's a really high value thing. For me, my grandmother was absolutely my best friend, and I'm willing to, go back and forth with any cousin. But we had a very close relationship in that both of my parents were going to school full time while working full time.
Hmm.
And so we spent a lot of time at our grandparents' house, my great grandmother's house. So I was raised by a lot of the elders in my family. My grandmother also was the first person. We have a really big and large family. She was the first person to move to Rochester from King Street, South Carolina.
Okay.
And so there were folks that had gotten to Reading, Pennsylvania, but no one had come up to Rochester. And so her home was the place where everyone else came to get on their feet. And so there's a deep reverence for both her and my grandfather on both sides of their family, across, as well as within my father's side of the family. There's a deep respect for the covering that they provided for multiple people in the family. in addition to having, 10 kids, in addition to them being a part of, them being having 11 siblings themselves. So it's a really large family.
Wow.
My culture is Gullah or Geechee. And I've been talking to folks a lot, right, about, really trying to be more intentional about saying that out loud. Because my family's Gullah, it's a very insulated culture. And so we have all this very rich culture that we've been keeping to ourselves. And so, I think it speaks to having a deep sense of loyalty to each other, and a deep sense of family. And so in this phase and era, it's like, okay, what does it look like to carry that sense of family outwardly, especially if I don't plan to have, 10 or 11 or 12 kids? What does it look like to show up with that same energy? But beyond all of that, on a personal level, my grandmother really loved me. And I would say she was, when I think about unconditional love, I think about her. And I think about very particular moments when I first failed out of college my freshman year. I remember her calling me and me like not wanting to pick up the phone. And when I did, and I'm like, ashamed to talk to her, the first thing she said to me was like, "You'll be all right."
Mm.
And it took probably a decade for me to understand that. And it wasn't until I was talking to another set of students about like kind of what she saw in me and what she meant. And so that type of care, I think, was very fundamental for me. And beyond all that, she was the person I learned how to read a Bible from.
Wow.
So, gave me a deep sense of faith. So she was a really good woman, and then also really loved me. And she loved everybody, but she loved me though.
So you're the special one, huh?
I mean, she loved y'all too, but she loved me though. And she loved y'all because she had a lot of love to give.
Oh, there you go. So talking about Gullah, it's funny because a good friend of mine,
Mhm.
he is from that area, and that's what he also speaks Gullah,
Mhm.
or
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah. So that's too funny. I'm gonna have to circle back with you to find out exactly where.
Absolutely. It's not that big. Well, so then there's an entire coastal area. So folks will say South Carolina, but it could be Georgia, it could be, northern Florida, but there's a very, very rich history there. So yeah, I would love to hear his feedback.
Yeah. So let's move on. Let's talk a little bit more about, because we got about 8 minutes left here. What have been in your entrepreneurial journey, and your change journey? What has been some of the challenges, maybe the top two, or yeah, top two challenges that you've had to endure in your 2 years full-time entrepreneurship, but also your years of as a change maker?
Yeah, I think showing up authentically, finding the balance between showing up authentically, but also resonating with people. So making sure that they can hear you, but also showing up as yourself. And then truly knowing your worth enough to know when to say no, to know when to rest, to know what to say yes to be able to negotiate. I think a lot of times bad behaviors hide behind good intentions, especially when you're doing change work. And so you deal with a lot of folks who have sort of where they have a lot of unaware hazardous behavior. And so learning how to navigate that has been a challenge. And I think if you don't have that, if you don't have a certain amount of grace for people, it becomes really hard to be an entrepreneur, because you'll have a lot of times where the door is not closed, but you think it is, and you kind of need to have some grace for folks and knock again. And so that type of bravery has been something that I really had to build in these first 2 years.
Good. And I'm talking with Takiyah Butler. If you have any questions for her or any comments, I just want to give her a shout out. Do that. Just drop that in the comments. Um, Takiyah, if you were to tell, or if you at your stage now, if you were to tell a 20-year-old Takiyah, if you were to talk to a 20-year-old Takiyah, what would you tell her with what you know now?
20-year-old Takiyah was not quite out of college yet, and had just transferred to the university she would graduate from. And she was right before my grandmother passed away. So my grandmother passed away at 21. And so it was right when I thought I had worked out of things, but I had a lot more work to go. So I would tell myself probably what my dad told me recently, which is like patience, grasshopper.
Mm.
Like that phrase has just been in my head. I would tell myself to be patient. Um, and my grandfather gave me advice 2 years ago that I wish I could give to her, which is, you're a good person. And so when people lose your trust, they've lost way more than you could ever lose. and to really sit in that, to sit in your own goodness. I think I would affirm her goodness, and I would tell her to be patient.
Okay. Good, 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 good. How can someone get a hold of you if they would like to connect with you? How can they go ahead and do that?
Yeah, so my Instagram handle is right there in my name. So that's talk verbs. It's like proverbs, but talk verbs. And then my email is tak@riseoverrun.org. So talk@riseoverrun.org. Our website should be up within the next month or so, and that'll be riseoverrun.org also. But you can always catch me in my handle. There are links there, and then also via email, talk@riseoverrun.org.
Great. So as we look to end, Takiyah, any last words that you would like to? Because after this, we're gonna have a fun time where we have something they call rapid fire, and I haven't told you the questions yet, but it's 4 or 5 questions that I ask,
Okay.
and quick responses. But any last words before we go into rapid fire?
Yes. Don't break a promise to yourself.
Okay,
That's it.
and that means what? Go a little deeper.
Don't
You
make
just
a
can't
promise.
drop that on us. Come on now.
That's the talk verbs part. So don't make a promise to yourself is the idea that if you committed to something, don't negotiate with yourself. If you told yourself you would get up early, if you told yourself you would, see something through, don't break those promises to yourself. If you told yourself you would show up in the world a certain way, that you would be more kind, more hopeful, commit to those things and find ways to put yourself in a position to be able to do those things, whether it's calling on others, adjusting certain things in your day. What do you have to let go of to become the person you want to be? I'd rather you let go of those things than let go of the promise you gave to yourself.
I love that. That's deep. That's deep. That's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. So here we go. Ready? Rapid fire as we wrap up here.
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Let's see. What is your favorite food?
Pomegranates.
Okay. Favorite. So just that or
Oh, okay. So like lamb shank, like a good lamb chop, a lamb chop, lamb, all
okay.
lambs.
Okay. All right. Favorite type of music?
Hmm. Oh man. By right now, honestly, by neural beats, but also R&B. Yeah, so R&B, neo soulish, something I
Okay.
can sing to.
Favorite artists?
Oh, these are hard. Um, Stevie Wonder. I mean, yeah, or Brandy. Brandy is my timeline. Brandy.
Wow. You are going way back.
I know.
Jeez.
That's all I got.
Okay. All right. Favorite place to vacation?
One of my best. Oh, okay. So it's a tie between Belize and Bali.
Hmm. Two
Yeah,
different spaces, completely different from each other.
yeah. But I saw
Why?
rainbows in both and peace in both.
Okay. Okay. All
Hmm.
right.
Hmm.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Favorite saying or quote? Saying or quote?
Okay. I'm gonna give you the one my dad gave me, and I'm gonna clean it up. If every room you walk into smells like poo, it's probably you. So the least you can do is take a shower.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, I wasn't expecting that one, but
Yep.
that's good. Last one. If you can be anyone else
Mm-hmm.
outside of Takiyah Butler, who would it be? And why?
Whew. I would be. I'm like not programmed to answer this question. Who would I be? I would be. Hmm.
Hard one, huh?
I like me. I really like me.
Okay.
I would be. I would be a. I would do something in nature,
Okay.
like something that was maybe I'd be like a park ranger or something, or like something where I was like outside a lot, or like a Sherpa or something.
Got it. Got
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Okay, that's cool. That's
yeah.
cool. All right, that's it for now, Takiyah. Thank you so very much for being here.
Thank
Thank you for the
you.
opportunity to connect and share and pull some wisdom from you. Truly a change maker. So continue doing what you're doing. I'll give you some advice that one of my managers and leaders way back when told me. He says, continue doing what you're doing, but do more of it.
Ah, Received.
So there you go. So
I add
thank
that
you.
to my promises.
There you go. So we'll chat sometime soon. I'm sure that we'll connect with each other or down the road, see each other. So blessings to you and your family. May God bless you and keep you and protect you, especially in this crazy world that we live in.
Thank you. I received
Okay.
that. Same.
All right.
Take care. Good night.
Good night. All right. So we've been talking with Takiyah Butler, a truly a change maker. If you enjoyed our conversation, go ahead and like the broadcast. If you're watching from any of our platforms that we stream to, Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, make sure that you drop us a like on this episode. If you're watching from YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to our channel and like this broadcast. If you would like to connect with us at the Jackman Group, this program is produced by the Jackman Group LLC. You can send me an email, info@jackmangroupllc.com. That is info@jackmangroupllc.com. And if you certainly would like to be a part of our community as we continue to grow, you can do that. You can find me anywhere on our link tree, whether it is for our training, our coaching, or group coaching, or simply just want to join our community. There it is, their link tree / Jackman Jack P Jackman 007. So that's it for today. That's it for tonight. That's it for episode 157. I hope this was information that you can use that will benefit you in your personal life, your professional life, and your spiritual lives. So may God bless you and your family. We will see you next week with another interesting, exciting topic and guest. Peace, blessings.